Hello, my name's Matt Cameron, and I help people connect with digital marketing. Today, in the open source Tracardi office hours, which we do every second week, we're going to go through some important topics that we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks, which are how to easily deploy Tracardi with EasyPanel, and also we're going to have a look at some more in-depth posts off the blog, which talk about, which I'll let Risto explain that in a tick, which talk about how to have a more advanced strategy for installing Tracardi. But before we do anything else, Risto, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are?
Hello, everyone. My name is Risto, and I'm a founder of Tracardi. This is an open source customer data platform that everybody can use to collect customer data.
Awesome. And as far as I'm concerned, Tracardi, and I've said it before, but Tracardi is the best thing since sliced bread. It is really awesome. Anyway, what I'll do is share my screen. So we were talking about last week. I'll get my screen sharing while I talk. Chrome tab, easy panel, that's the one. We're talking about last week how to make it easy to deploy Tracardi. And one thing I use for all my Docker instances is a thing called EasyPanel. I feel as though I'm cheating sometimes because I'm not doing stuff on the command line, but EasyPanel does make stuff really easy. It does exactly what it says, and it's like a user interface for Docker. And when you buy the license, you get a whole lot more stuff like database backups and all sorts of things that you really do need. But just on the free version, you can still do a lot. So what I've done is just spun up an instance on DigitalOcean. It could be any service provider platform, an EasyPanel instance. I'm not going to go into details about how to set that up. There's going to be a lot of stuff out there. We'll make sure to put in the notes some links to that, how to get EasyPanel going. I've spun up EasyPanel and got it started, and it's got a name, a domain name, and we've created a project. So if we go into EasyPanel, and this is just a really empty project, we've got one called Tracardi. What I might do is I might just no, look, I'll leave Tracardi there. We've already set it up. First, what I will do is I'll delete Tracardi so that we're just right at the very beginning of this sort of setup. So you've got your EasyPanel set up and you're seeing create project. It's the first step. Incidentally, we've got 8 gigabytes of RAM, which I think is about what you're going to need if you're doing this style of setup. Okay, so let's create a project and we'll call it Tracardi. Okay, so we've got an empty project. Now, what EasyPanel does is it lets you set stuff up really easy. So if I go into services, it's going to give me MySQL, all sorts of databases. And look, we could go into MySQL and it'd say, what do you want to call a service name? What's the Docker image? And what are the passwords for that? And it'll just create that container and image for you for MySQL. Now, it's also got templates for popular systems, and I hope as we work through this and iron out any of the little bugs that we're working through, hope to get this submitted in with a pull request to include Tracardi in here. But to give you an idea about how it works, if we go to look, you feel welcome to play around with these. There's lots of good open source projects in here. I've learned about stuff that I didn't know about just by having a look at what they've packaged up here and got on offer. Anyway, let's do Tracardi. So we'll go to templates. And whilst I've got templates and packaged templates, we've got the option of providing a schema for the services that we want to start. So we're working through a post on the blog at the moment called Tracardi self-host. Oh, I haven't spelt that quite right, have I? Anyway, we'll fix that up. It's still draft. Tracardi self-host made super simple with EasyPanel. And this is the JSON. Just copy that out. That we're going to use to set ourselves up on Easy Panel. But I'll just paste that in there. And this is the delightful bit we're going to create. And we can see that all these services have been created. So we've got Elasticsearch, MySQL, Redis, and we've got some Tracardi applications there. You'll notice that we've got APM. At the moment, we haven't got the configuration for APM in the JSON. I just haven't got the time around for that. We don't have a worker. And we're using the API also as the GUI API. So we're sort of cheating a little bit there by just having one worker, one API for both the application itself and also for the GUI. Anyway, we're seeing Elasticsearch start up there. We can see MySQL start there. We can sort of see that it's sorted itself out. Like I said, this is what I like about this Easy Panel. Like easy, it is easy. It makes it.
It's really easy.
It really is easy. Like you saw all those services. If I was trying to do that from the command line, I'd be mucking around with docs and all the rest of it. And I'm doing this as much for me as I'm doing it for anyone watching along, because this is how I manage my services. And this is what I wanted when I first started, something like this. So I'm really committed to getting this JSON file and a pull request for the template organized so that people like me and others can make it really easy with getting started with Tracardi. So Elasticsearch has been set up. If we go into the environment, it's set up in single mode. If you wanted to do more, then you need to set up your cluster for Elasticsearch. This will get you started. MySQL, important. Little gotchas. The image has to be 8.0, not 8. I'm not quite sure what the latest release is now, but it's not 8.0 for Tracardi. It really likes 8.0. So all these little gotchas are sort of baked in here so far. Redis. Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Redis or
Redis? Yep.
Redis. Oh, cool. And likewise, it doesn't have any environment variables. Like I said, the APN hasn't been configured yet, so it's spinning around trying to connect. It's got no connection details. I'm going to switch it off just so it's not doing stuff. I've got our API and GUI. I'll go to the GUI first, and we'll have a look at the environment variables for that. So it's production, yes. At mode, no deployment, which are the settings that you're going to need for that. And if we go to the API, we can see that Tracardi's come up. So we're seeing that little Tracardi message there. Awesome. Which is pretty awesome because we actually just put the JSON in and we got that far, which is good. So we've got to here. Might just go back to our post and talk through what we've got in the JSON.
I've got a question, actually.
Yeah, sure.
Could you just go into environment in Tracardi API?
Yeah.
Is there a way to set the version of the API of the Docker?
There is, and I'll share this screen, which is the JSON screen here. So,
Okay.
so I'll just scroll down and I'll find the API. GUI, I think it's the last one. Yep. So there we go. There. It's our image that we're pulling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Is it possible that it goes into the environment variables and you just inject it here? Because I see a project name as you've just injected this. So most probably the version should be also.
I'll talk through it soon here. So we've sort of got this overview, which is giving us our log, and we can go and see some more detail if we sort of click into the log. We've got where we're pulling the image from, and we've got a whole lot of different options, but we've got a Docker image. Sorry, I'm not sharing this screen. I'll share this tab instead. So I'll just start again at the top there. We've got our Tracardi API. So it's just overview tab. If we click into it, we see more logging, and you can go back so many lines back to the beginning. We've got our source, which is which is telling it where it comes from. Now, just go back to that other screen, share this tab again, and there's our source there.
So this is like a default version that will be installed, and later on you can edit this in Easy Panel so it will update, right?
correct. Right now, this is the right now, I think this is the correct version. But yeah, in the future, we could use this to get started. Obviously, we're going to have to keep this JSON up to date, or the template that gets installed or into EasyPanel in the future, hopefully up to date, the correct version. But yeah, to manually keep it up to date yourself, then you'd set this version here. So all this was scaffolded out by the JSON file, all these applications. And we can see here where we can change that. So if you're on the commercial version, then you put the details to access the commercial version with.
Yep.
And I think I've, in the past, used GitHub. I've loaded different images or different Docker files directly from GitHub, and that works just as well. It is open source. I absolutely love this EasyPanel. They're always rolling out new things, and a bit like Easter eggs with Tracardi. You sort of wake up in the morning, you get an email, and you just want to play with it and find out what they've done next. It's a little bit awesome. So we've got overview source. We've got our deployment, so we've deployed this. This tells us when it was pulled down. We've got our environment variables. We've got domains. I'll come to that, the tick, redirect, security, and resources. Storage. I'll just go to storage. No. Look, I'll go to Elasticsearch and have a look at storage there. And then it shows you the mounts that have been done on the volumes, which was part of the configuration. Jumping around a little bit here, but I'll share the Elasticsearch configuration, and you can see the mounts there. And you can also see that we've got some thresholds on Elasticsearch because it likes to get a little bit hungry on memory. So we're just saying don't use any more than 4 gigabytes of Elasticsearch, otherwise it's going to stop everything from working. Anyway, go back to this tab instead and go back to the API. So what we don't have here at the moment are domains. So we don't have a domain on the Tracardi API or on the GUI. So let's sort that out. So far, so good. Risto, have you got any questions?
Yeah. No, it's so easy that, well, in a few seconds, you've got the whole setup.
Yeah. Yeah. When we get to the end, I'll just show you another template about how easy it is to get set up with something that is templated, just like that next level of easy. There's some considerations with this that we'll talk about at the tip of the environment variables. But EasyPanel, I'm going to our settings. Nothing's been set up and properly mapped for this. It's just an instance of EasyPanel that's been set up for this demo, and we'll destroy it afterwards. But this is the host that it's on, so I'll just copy that. I'll go back into the API domains. I'll add a domain. I'll call it API dot whatever it gave us, and I'll do the same to the GUI. Go to domains, add a domain, call it GUI, I guess. With that domain that it gave
I have
us
a question here, if I may. I see that you could probably set an HTTP connection there, SSL as well. When you add it, I saw that there was
we could add a domain without it could just be HTTP.
Okay, so it automatically gets you a HTTPS, right? Because this is perfect, because when you collect data from the HTTPS web page, you must be sure that your API is also HTTPS. So that's very interesting, because that takes a lot of time for people to set up HTTPS.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, and on my production server, I get a very long list of certificates that have been set up and which are managed automatically. I use Cloudflare for so it's an A record. You set up an A record point at the IP. As far as Cloudflare is concerned for the domain, and when you're in EasyPanel, and we go back to the API, the domain name would reflect that domain name that you've set up. And when I do that in my production mode, I'll end up with, and I was expecting to see a couple of certificates there then. Although we've got one here now.
Yeah.
It's the
But
one
this is for your domain. But I believe that EasyPanel delivers a certificate for all the Dockers that they host. So that's why it's so easy. You
that's
don't have
correct.
to do anything.
Look, I could set one up. No, I won't set one up. Trust me, as you set up proper subdomains. So it could be api.consideration.cloud. Then you would see the certificate for that, and that'd be self-managed on the platform. Cool. So back to EasyPanel, back to the API, and let's open it up and share this tab instead. There you go. So that worked. We've got the API. We've got some interesting names there, and we'll talk about that tenant name in a tick, because you'll need to replace some of the environment variables with things that make sense for yourself, like passwords and that. But we can see what's in that JSON file. So if we go back to the share this tab instead, and we look at the API. Where's the API? There we go. There's the when it's the environment variable. Let's scroll across for the tenant name. So we can see tenant name equals tenant name, which is what we saw in that other screen. And I'll just go back to that other screen, which was the API, to show you that, which is environment variables, which is there. Share this tab instead, sorry, which is there. So we're seeing that map there. But talk about that tick, that how to change those. Okay, so we've got the API going. If I go back to the GUI and open that tab, we can see that, share this tab instead, we can see that the GUI is opened up Tracardi. Now, I did try and install this before with the same name, so it's remembered that. I'm just using the default Tracardi token. And I'll put my own personal email address in here. So at this stage, and this is, like I said, I got to this point and I sort of ran out of time. I was hoping to get past this to show you in full, but I guess it's going to be something for next office hours. So if I go install here, this is as far as it gets. And it comes back to this screen. Yeah, I'll just update that. So let's go back to EasyPanel. I'll share this tab instead. We'll go to the API. And we see these messages here. It's in schema. Here. Off the top of your head, Risto, what does this make sense to you? Quick fix?
Yes, I would just remove the tenant name because you are using not the multi-tenant version, so it will create a tenant name for your installation, and I think that would just solve this.
Okay, so let's do that. So I'll stop sharing that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete each of these services because it just doesn't take long to set them up again. Elasticsearch. Actually, it does take a little bit of time. We don't have all day here. So what I'll do is go to the API environment variable, and we will remove tenant name.
Yes. And
save and deploy. So when you make a change like that, you need to redeploy. And that's now using the default that Tracardi uses. So that should be back up by now. Let's just check. Yep. Tenant name. So it's the default. I'm not saying tenant name there. So if we go the GUI. Now, you know what? MySQL's probably got some records in it. Let's have a look.
Yeah, there should be a database. Don't know if there are any records, but I would just try to reinstall it with the MySQL that you have.
Yeah, so it has attempted to set up MySQL. So
just try again in the installation. I think restarting an API should create a default tenant name.
Let's see what happens.
And we'll see what happens. Yes. We can see the logs, and in the logs there should be. Yeah,
Wow,
there you
brilliant.
go.
We're here. This is beautiful. So, what by removing the tenant name, we've sort of got past that issue. If I just put my credentials in, we should be in Tracardi.
Here you
Wow,
go.
wasn't that easy? We haven't quite got it finished. There's still a little bit we need to do in terms of the AP auto profile merging and also the worker. So we'll get those wrapped up and put them into the blog post and share this script.
Yeah, but this is really easy. This is like 5 minute installation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I really like it. Also, for those people who just don't want to set up an easy panel, I've noticed that there are already some cloud providers that allow you to install Tracardi. Unfortunately, it's an old version, so I think I have to reach to them and just ask them to update the version. But you can buy from them, and this is quite cheap. I don't know how they do it. That they open an account in AWS or Google Cloud for you. They will charge you for the installation and also for that account, and you can have Tracardi installed. And this is just last like filling a form. So yeah, this is also another way to install and try Tracardi, the open source version. So you don't have to set everything from by yourself.
Cool. Anyway, we'll finish that. I'll wrap up that blog post properly, share it. Definitely be up there by the time we do office hours next time around. But easy panel really does make it easy to set up Tracardi.
Right.
Yeah. So that was my
Okay.
yeah.
I will try to show you the hard way. The hard way. Maybe I can share what you will gain doing it the hard way. First of all, you create a production-ready Tracardi. That means that all parts of Tracardi that you install will be clusters. So with EasyPanel, like Matt showed you how to install it, you have everything in place, but it's just one instance. So if anything happens to that instance, you have to restart it, and you have to be sure that the data is not lost. If you install with Kubernetes, then you will install clusters. It means that the data and the databases will have several instances, and the data will be spread across those instances. So in case any of the nodes in the cluster fails, any of the servers fails, the data is safe. So I will share my screen because we've made several posts on our blog how to show how to install first Kubernetes, which is a thing actually like say some kind of operation system for your installation. And then on top of this, we also will be installing MySQL, Elasticsearch, and Redis, but this time as clusters. So we have several posts on this, and I will share my screen to just go through them. Okay. So when you go to our blog.tracardi.com, you will see several posts. Some of them will be our office hours, but also the posts about installing Tracardi. Previously, we've been discussing how to install Kubernetes for Tracardi. Actually, we are using K3s. K3s is like a minimalistic Kubernetes. That is, everything is set up for you in that installation. So you basically do only a few commands, and it will be installed on different. You can do it on different servers, and you can add additional service to that cluster. So this is very powerful. Whenever you want to scale Tracardi, you can add new servers. Then we need to install Helm. Helm is a kind of like a helper that helps installing very sophisticated systems that have dependencies, etc. And this is the information how to install it on Windows. So this is, you can use chocolate. I actually never did that. So I think that this works on Windows. And there's also a manual installation. So manual installation is, I'm more familiar with manual installation. And also how you can install Helm on Mac or Linux. So that just a few lines of code, some commands, and it will install Helm. After that, when we have Helm installed, we can go to installing several dependencies. So let's start with installing Redis. When we install anything from Helm, we need a repository. There are a lot of repositories for different systems in the internet. Also, Redis has its own repository. So with this command, you add this repository to your Helm installation, saying, okay, all the files about installing Redis are under this URL. Then you need to update the repository so it fetches all the necessary files, and then you have a configuration file. Configuration file is in form of YAML, and all you have to do, you have to just copy and paste it into your into your laptop under the name of values.yaml. And in this configuration file, you define how big your Redis cluster should be. So in here we have defined that our persistent layer is actually a storage, how big it should be. So I said, okay, 2 GB of storage I will need for my Redis deployment. Of course, you can increase this. And here are also some resources and limits to that resources. So for example, I would not like Redis to take more than 2 GB of memory. But when Redis starts, just start from 1 GB and just add additional memory if it needs it. So it starts with 1 GB and goes up to 2 GB of memory. And then we have replicas. So this is this part of installing a cluster. Because we have two types of nodes. One is the master. Master is a node that coordinates how the Redis works. And there are also replicas. So we defined there's also always one master, but we can have multiple replicas. And in here we define the same things, just how much memory each of the replica will have. This actually is the size of the disk that is needed for storing data. So I said, okay, 5 GB per each replica. And this is the memory, the same way as in master. But here we have replica count, and we can say how many replicas we would like to have. 3 are usually enough for Tracardi to be safe that the data in Redis is not lost. So what it will do, it will actually set up 4 nodes, one with the master, and we will have three replicas. And this is everything is explained in here, so I just just repeated the things that are in the blog. Okay, now we will install this. So we have a configuration file. Now we need to install it. With this command, we create a namespace for Redis. So it will be installed separately from Tracardi. So every time you need to, I don't know, delete it or do some maintenance on it, it will be in a separate namespace. And with this command, we actually install Redis. This command is a bit long because it makes sure that if the Redis is not installed, it will install it. But if it's installed, it will upgrade it depending on the changes in this file. So let me go quickly through this command. So this says, okay, install or upgrade Redis. Here's the name. Here is this is the name of the installation. This is the name of the actual repository. When you look at this, in here it's called Bitnami, and in Bitnami we have different repos. So this is a repo from Redis repo from Bitnami. Then we define where are my values, actually the configuration file. We say install it in the Redis namespace and create the namespace if it doesn't exist. Here's the breakdown of this command as well. So and well, we wait. After that, we should be able to see our nodes being started. Kubernetes takes care of that, how the installation is spread across the servers, so you don't have to worry about this. For example, if you have a Kubernetes of three nodes, it will just spread it evenly across the nodes, and we'll look for the node that has enough memory, etc. That's why we define how much memory we need. If anything fails, it will just tell you, okay, I could not find any node that has enough memory, for example, or you have too little nodes. So you can add node to Kubernetes, and it will automatically pick this up and will finish the installation. But when you start from scratch, it usually goes fine. So we can, after the installation, we can go Kubernetes get pods. Pods is like a name for Docker in Kubernetes. Actually, pods in Kubernetes may have many Dockers. But for the simplification, just say this is just a Docker. And you say, get all Dockers from my namespace Redis, and you should see something like that. So if they're ready, then you see that there's a master, there's replica. In my configuration file, I had only one replica. And basically, this is it. So there are a few commands, and we'll open you a Redis cluster. The same goes with the installation of Elasticsearch. So you can go and see that this is pretty much similar. There's one difference. Some installations need something like operators. Operator is another thing, like repository that you have to add before you start installing. So here are the operators. You type this command, and it will just install the operator in the Kubernetes. You don't have to worry about this. This is something automatic, the same way as adding a repository. Then you can download a Helm repository, but this time I've created a Helm repository, so you can see it's on the tracardi.com. You can download this repository locally, so you can use it there. And here is the configuration file, the same way as with Redis, and we define what version of Elasticsearch we install. Do we need a load balancer in front of our on Elasticsearch? And we do. So we leave it here as it is. We also define a port, and the same way we define replicas for the master, and for the data nodes, how many data nodes we need. This is the storage size. And we do the same thing as with Redis. First, create a namespace where it will be placed, and then we install this one. This is a simplified installation command without the upgrade. So you can see install Elastic. This is the downloaded file with the repository. This is the values, and this is the namespace. We also verify the pods, and we can, after some time when it's installed, we can see that there are one node, one master node, and some data nodes. So Kubernetes makes it very easy, Kubernetes with Helm charts, makes it very easy to install very sophisticated installations that would probably take you a day to configure manually. So this is a very, very good way to start installing a production version of Tracardi. Let's go quickly to another. This is the same thing with Percona. Percona is a MySQL database. The same thing. You add a repo. This is a repository where we have all the installation files. We update the repo because in the previous example, We've downloaded it locally, so we don't have to update it because we had all the files already on our local laptop. The same thing, configuration file, and this is the same. You define the number of replicas here, the storage. You can also define if the backup should be done automatically. Also, there are more configuration to this cluster, but I try to reduce it only to the essential, the parts that you need to configure. All the other things are just not in the configuration file. If you are good in DevOps, you can just go into the documentation of this Helm chart and you'll find a lot of more configuration. So in here, we only have the necessary parts. And this is also the description. We create a namespace for Pecona, install. This one probably needs two installations, two parts, because this one installs the operator and this one installs the Pecona itself, and then we verify the installation of MySQL. And this is basically it. This is what you need to have all the dependencies in Kubernetes cluster, production-ready dependencies. And in the next post that is not here, I will describe how to connect Tracardi with all that instances. So there will be information how to connect, how to get the credentials from Percona, Redis, and Elasticsearch, and how to add it to the configuration of Tracardi, and it will work the same way. So, but the configuration file will be a bit bigger. It will have Tracardi and all the dependencies and its credentials in that configuration file. And this will be in our next post that will be probably, I don't know, within a week on our Tracardi blog. Your mic is off, I guess. I cannot hear you. I see that your mic is muted. Isn't it muted? Oh, I see your mic is muted. Okay, now?
I'm back.
Yes.
You gotta love. We should know our tech by now. I think there's another interesting post which we could do. We've covered the easy and we've covered the hard. How would you migrate from the easy to the hard? We don't need to answer that now, but I think that'd be an interesting post, like getting stuff
Yes.
the dump and the restore, and also the Elasticsearch part. They're the two key bits. But yes, would be interesting to just describe that process as well. Not for now, but
Yes.
yeah.
That process probably would be a bit complicated also, because then you have to move, data between Elasticsearch and MySQL also. Two Elasticsearches and two MySQLs. Redis data is for caching only, so it will be restored. Don't need to move this.
But it's still be an interesting discussion. Maybe it's not possible, but everything's possible.
Everything's possible.
That's right.
How much time you can spend on this? It's a matter of it.
I'm sure somebody's going to ask the question. I hadn't looked at the blog for a couple of days, and I came back to it. And I saw that you put a few posts there, and I love it when I see stuff like I was saying earlier, like Easter eggs. So you see stuff that's there and you didn't see it before, and it's I don't know, it's always good.
Yeah.
It's good to see open source stuff, people contributing, and what you're doing with those
Hmm.
posts. Risto, it's really educational. If I wanted to do that and follow through and with what you've got there, what would I need to set up an environment for Kubernetes? Well, I guess I can go
You
search that on the
you
web.
would you would need some VPN, some servers. Yes, that
Yeah,
could be like VPNs and even small servers.
sure.
And
So I know I'm with DigitalOcean, and they talk about Kubernetes, and they say if you want to set one up, these are pretty much the configuration you've got to go through for them.
yes,
I guess it's something I've got to research up as well, and
I
maybe
really encourage you to try this Hetzner, which
yep,
is just sells you very cheap virtual servers. And the whole configuration of Kubernetes, especially this K3s, is just 3 commands on
okay,
one per node. So, for example, if you have like 3 nodes, one per node, there's a one command that you start the master. The master creates a token, then you copy the token into the new command and paste it to all the additional worker nodes that you'll have. And that's basically it. You can then connect the UI, because there's also a UI for this, so you can see all the nodes, how
sure.
they work, etc.
If you could put a link to that in the comments on the blog, once it's there, I'll definitely follow through and have a look.
Yes. There's this blog, how to install Kubernetes for Tracardi, and I will paste it into the comments in the video, so everybody can just start uh, and install Kubernetes for themselves.
Awesome. Any other news coming up for Tracardi? I think it's pretty quiet on the Slack group at the moment. I haven't
Yes,
seen a lot of comments there.
yes, actually, I'm working on new things, and I was just a lot of on the commercial side, basically for the people who needs multi-tenant versions. So they need to somehow monitor it and see how the data is flowing. So this part is, and I have a new contributor that does it. So um, I think we'll have something to show soon. Also being trying to find the, because Tracardi commercial version of Tracardi uses something like a durable execution engine. This is a kind of software that allows you to run the workflows for a very long time. So the workflow starts, pauses, then resumes, does something, pauses, etc. And if it starts, it never repeats the step that it went through. So if there are 3 steps, 3 went okay, and the third failed, it will never repeat the first 2 steps. So I was just trying if I could use some of the ready to use open source projects for that, because currently I'm using Apache Pulsar for this, and I found that that project unfortunately is not performant enough. Tracardi, I did another tests for multi-tenant installations, because in the multi-tenant installation the performance is very crucial, and I reached another limit. I had limit for 50,000 events per minute on my laptop, and currently I've been able to go to 300,000 events per minute. That means that 1 million events you can collect in over 3 minutes. So, and this is very important for multi-tenant installations, that people need to collect a lot of data. And that also just opens the way to my other project that I would like to start. We've discussed about this. I would like to call it Tracardi Signals, which will be able to collect a lot of events that are not behavioral events. Actually, they are, but I call it signals, because this is like measuring somebody's pulse or where he looks, etc. There's like a lot of data, and from that data we can infer what the person could be interested in. So we are talking about interest, but now I would like to have this Tracardi signals that can take a lot of data, and from that data, for example, within 3 minutes, just deliver some insights what the person is actually looking for, where he spends time, and that would be probably the next project of Tracardi, and also working on mm, delivering a new storage that would be SQL storage. So could connect SQL storage, and then it gives us the opportunity to join the data from Tracardi with other data, for example, product data, etc. That gives a lot of ways of activating customers. So this is what I've been working on. Probably that's why there is no so much discussion on Slack. Mostly we just solve the issues. Okay. Okay. So I think this is it for today's office hours. Thank you all for watching, and thank you, Matt, for opening, participating. Thank you. Bye bye.